Hello. My research explored visuospatial neglect in stroke survivors using a VR-based dual tasking study. Stroke occurs when reduced blood flow to the brain results in cell death. Imagine that before a stroke, you could draw clocks and flowers like this, and then after a stroke, you began to draw them like this. You are likely suffering from a condition called visuospatial neglect, marked by reduced visual awareness on one side. People with this condition typically have regular visual fields and healthy eyes, but their brain struggles to process and attend to information on one side, usually the side opposite of the stroke or other brain injury. Left-sided neglect is most common, affecting over half of right hemisphere stroke patients. It is possible to experience right-sided neglect, but this is rare. Traditional paper and pencil assessments, such as the Behavioral Inattention Test, don't fully capture how VSN affects daily tasks, highlighting the need for studies linking these tests to practical tasks. Stroke patients also struggle with dual tasking, a common example being walking and chewing gum at the same time. Current best practices in stroke rehab support the use of treadmill-based and virtual reality training alongside traditional methods. VR assessments of VSN can also be more engaging, allowing for effective evaluations and training using realistic everyday simulations. The overall objective of this study was to explore how stroke survivors perform on a visual scanning task while walking on a treadmill, simulating a dual task environment. 8 subacute stroke patients participated in 2 sessions. In session 1, they completed the 10-meter walk test to determine their overground walking speed. Then they did the BIT, which is an accepted assessment tool for VSN. In session 2, the single task consisted of walking at a comfortable pace on the treadmill while watching the virtual pathway. Then they did the visual scanning task, which involved walking at a comfortable pace on the treadmill and identifying 18 animals that appeared either on the left or right side of the virtual pathway. Patients then completed a questionnaire assessing their safety, confidence identifying animals, and resemblance of the VR task to a real-world activity. This is a picture of a lab member completing the visual scanning task, and this is a sample score sheet where points were given for identifying the side of the animal appearance and for identifying the type of animal, for a total of 36 points. This box plot shows the score distribution for VSN participants in red and non-VSN participants in yellow in the BIT and for the visual scanning task. The mean is represented by an X, the median by a horizontal line, and interquartile range are shown for both sets of scores. The average BIT score was 130.96, where 2 participants did not meet the cutoff, indicating that they have VSN. The average visual scanning task score was 24.88, with those who failed the BIT also performing poorly on the visual scanning task. Regarding walking quality, the box plots show the number of crossovers for VSN participants in red and non-VSN participants in yellow during the first 5 minutes of the single task and first 5 minutes of the visual scanning task. Crossovers occur when 3 or more strides cross the treadmill midline as shown in the figure to the right. The number of crossovers made during the first 5 minutes of each task did not significantly change in both participant groups. This table shows questionnaire response data from VSN and non-VSN participants after they completed the visual scanning task. These scores are out of the total for each section of the questionnaire, with higher values showing more agreement with each section. The VSN participants rated the perceived safety and confidence identifying animals lower than non-VSN participants, but rated the resemblance to real-world tasks higher. We can see that participants who did poorly on the BIT also did poorly on the visual aspect of the visual scanning task, consistent with the fact that they have visual inattention. Walking quality in the first 5 minutes of the single task and the visual scanning task for both participant groups did not significantly change, aligning with existing literature which found that subacute stroke patients will prioritize walking when dual tasking. Overall, the small sample size limits the conclusiveness of these findings. The findings suggest that VR could be a valuable tool in rehab settings to safely practice real-world tasks. Future research should refine VR-based interventions to target and improve dual tasking deficits using tasks that better simulate everyday activities such as navigating a busy street or grocery shopping. I would like to thank the Restore Network for funding this research, as well as everyone in the Ducalo Neurorobot Lab, my PI Dr. Sean Ducalo, and my mentor Alexa Boyer.